Welcome to She Lancer, Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. I'm your host, Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and this podcast are the audio versions of my live Q&A chats on YouTube. If you'd like to be part of the live Q&A chats, come on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. I'm live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. EST. We talk about voiceover, the business of voiceover, audiobooks, and so much more. Find more information on my website, voiceoverangela.com. Enjoy today's episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again for another live Q&A session here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and my channel is dedicated to those of you just getting started out in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you tips, tricks, techniques, things that I do every day in my own voiceover business, and then we get together in these weekly chats to talk about a topic or two. We'll see how it goes. But if you're not new here, then you know that every week we have a new poll, and that poll is generally the topic of the day. And today's poll is, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to auditioning for voiceover or audiobooks? And cast your vote. We have about 18 votes, and the options are: not sure my read fits the brief, meaning what it is that the client is asking for. Audio quality isn't good enough, that you feel your audio quality isn't good enough. Nerves, lack of confidence, or that you never get feedback or callback, so why bother auditioning if you're in that camp? So 36% of you, so the majority of you, said not sure if your read fits the brief, what the client is looking for. 14% of you, 12% of you said audio quality isn't good enough. And 29% of you said nerves or lack of confidence. And then 20% of you said you never get feedback or callbacks. Okay, so I think for the first option there, not sure my read fits the brief. Here goes my brain overthinking again. So this could be a couple of different things. Either you feel that perhaps you're not delivering what you feel the client is asking for, or you just don't fit it, period, meaning that they're looking for perhaps female versus male, or accents. You know, there's a variation in accents. You don't match the accent they're asking for, something like that, like specifics. But if we're talking about not sure if your read fits the brief, meaning that perhaps they're looking for a specific kind of read, or that you don't perhaps think you come across in the way that they're asking you to come across. So that could go a couple of different ways, but I think more so the latter than the former, because obviously if it's a specific technical request, then you probably won't apply for it. So probably the latter. And that is one of the most important things about submitting an audition, or I guess submitting an audition, is that you have to understand what you're reading. You have to understand the purpose, right? Or going back to the W's. And if you take the time to really understand who you are as the narrator, who you're speaking to, and why you're saying it, is really going to help you to understand what you're doing. So if you take the time to fully read through the audition script, and let's just say it is a nonfiction book, right? And these are typically educational in some way, shape, or form, right? So let's just say this book is about, I don't know, homesteading, right? It's a book about how to grow your own vegetables, to source water, things like that. Educational. So you, as the narrator, are the voice of the author, giving information to people who are seeking it, this particular information. So you want to come across as confident. You want to keep the read engaging. You want to sound as if you wrote those words. You have to sound like you know what you're talking about, right? So there's no character voices, but you have to sound like you know what you are saying and why you are saying it, that you are the educated one in this topic. Now, if we're talking about fiction, this is a section, the audition is a section of the story, perhaps where there is two characters having a conversation. You want to fully have an understanding, a solid understanding of what is happening in this scene. Usually we aren't given a whole lot of context, but based on what you have to go off of, make the best decision that you can. Make sure you understand, put yourself in those characters' places. How are they feeling? What is going on in this scene, right? Is someone upset? Is someone defending themselves? Are they having an argument? I mean, what is going on in this situation? If you can fully understand what is happening in the scene instead of just reading the words, it will naturally come across a little better, right? It'll sound like you're actually engaged in the story and painting this picture in the audition instead of just reading the words. Because if you have a full understanding of what the words mean and what is happening in this scene, it's going to come across a whole different way. I'm going to squish the tangent before I go off on a whole different road. But basically, that is what you want to do. And keep in mind, as we always say, whomever is listening to that audition, whoever is making the decisions about who to choose for this job, this audiobook, whatever it is you're auditioning for, the first few seconds is going to be crucial. Because it's usually within those first few seconds of hearing your voice and your audio quality that they're going to make that decision to either keep listening or to move on to the next. So be sure that your auditions start quickly, meaning there isn't 5 seconds of silence in the beginning. I generally don't slate unless it is specifically asked for. And when I say slate, meaning, hi, my name is Angela, I'm auditioning for XYZ book, or yada, yada, yada. Unless it's a voiceover job where I'm giving them 2 takes, then I will say take 1 of 2. That is the only time that I include anything additional. However, for audiobooks, the author, whomever's making the decision, want to hear their words in your voice and to see if if you're the voice that matches the one that was in their head, what they imagined this would sound like. B, that you have an understanding of what you're saying, right? You're not just reading the words. C, and that your audio quality is up to snuff, right? There isn't a ton of air conditioning noise in it. There isn't, a TV in the background, things of that nature. So those first few seconds are super important. That's usually when they're going to make those decisions. If you're feeling that your audio quality isn't good enough, it depends on why you think that. If you're getting, as I always say, join groups, join peer groups, join masterminds, workshops, Facebook groups that will allow you to get feedback on your auditions, like my Platinum group does. In fact, we do those every month, sometimes more. I allow that in my Discord and on my Facebook group. I allow people to submit audio samples for feedback because I feel it's important. If you don't want to join groups, which I wouldn't understand why you wouldn't want to for the camaraderie and support. But if you don't want to do that, then hire an audio engineer to kind of nip that in the bud from the start. Get your audio quality under control if you don't feel that it's good enough. But you might just find, if you do find groups to join that will allow feedback on auditions and things, you might just find that there's nothing wrong with your audio quality. You just maybe think that there's something wrong with it. I can feel another tangent coming on, so I'm going to squish it right now. But get feedback or hire an audio engineer and just put that fear to bed right now from the start. That will help to build the confidence, which leads into the next option, right? Nerves or lack of confidence. I think what I just discussed with understanding the read, the purpose of the read, who you are and who you're talking to, and then understanding that your audio quality sounds as good as it's going to at this moment. I'm not going to say perfect because you know how much I hate that word. But those things will definitely help to build your confidence. And then as you continue to improve and audition and, streamline your workflow and things of that nature, that will help to continue to build your confidence. So you got to get in there, you got to get started, and you got to get involved. You got to keep learning, you got to keep growing and engaging with your peers and, revising your workflow, things like that. None of it is going to get better unless you get active, unless you get into it and start practicing. If you're fearful about submitting auditions because you feel like you're never going to get feedback or callbacks, meaning you don't get, the hired for the job, obviously, but if you don't get a message from the rights holder, from the client saying, hey, I've put you aside as top 3, top 5, whatever it is, that's okay. That just means that you weren't a fit for that specific job. If you're confident at that point that you submitted the best audition that you could, right? You were confident in the fact that you took the time to understand what they needed from you as the narrator. You understood the brief. You understood that your audio quality was good as it is, good enough as it is, and you're not getting hired for the job. That simply means that you just weren't the voice they were looking for. So go find another one. Go submit a few auditions, right? More often than not, it's just that you weren't the voice they were looking for. Now, in order to cross paths with the client who was looking for a voice like yours, you have to submit a lot of auditions, right? It's kind of like 50-50 luck versus talent or skill. It's a combination of the two. You have to be in the right place. And in order to be in the right place, you have to submit those auditions to have a chance at that place, if that makes sense. Holy tangent. But I think you guys know what I mean, right? I can't see any of you, but I can feel you guys going, yep. I hope. So I hope I addressed those options well enough. If you have questions on anything that I just said, and we are going to supply a few more tips throughout the course of our live chat today. I want to see if you guys have specific questions about these things. But really, it comes down to audio quality. Oh, that was another thing. If you're submitting for an audiobook audition, be sure that your audio file is in ACX's standards, meaning it meets ACX compliance standards. So the beginning of the audio file, the narration starts between a half a second and a second, that the RMS requirements are correct, right? Your RMS falls within between negative 18 dB and negative 23 dB, that your peak amplitude doesn't go past negative 3 dB. Remember, these are all negative numbers, so that was the other thing. Peak amplitude, the peak amplitude requirement of negative 3 dB, that is not your target. That is just a threshold. So if your RMS is within the right range between negative 18 and negative 23, but you're stressing out because you can't hit that negative 3 dB peak amplitude, don't worry about it. As long as you're not going past it, as long as you're not eclipsing it, you're fine. That's not the target. That is a threshold. So if you're at negative 3.87, that's fine. As long as it's not in the twos, right? That's all that means. And then, of course, the room tone at the end of your file is between a second and 5 seconds. So make sure that your ACX files are compliant. It's a good idea to get into the habit of doing that anyway, just so you can improve and revise that workflow, right? It's a good habit to do that anyway. And then also for non-audiobook auditions, sometimes clients will prefer their files be in a specific way, sometimes. So another important reason that you should always review the details, the briefs, the descriptions, the tech specs, if there are any. Some of my clients will request files that are completely raw, meaning no processing, no nothing, no editing even sometimes. Just record it, save it, send it, right? Maybe they'll want it at a specific sample rate, maybe a specific bit depth, right? Maybe they'll ask you for 30 seconds of silence at the beginning so they can do the processing on the file on their end with some clean room tone. So it's important to read the tech specs along with the brief, whatever's included. Because if it's an audition and they're asking for specific file requirements, if your file doesn't meet those requirements, it's not even getting listened to. It's just getting scrapped. And you went through all the trouble of understanding all of the W's for nothing. Right? So these things are important. Make sure that you're reading them and adhering to them and then giving the client what they're asking for. I hope that makes sense. All right, let's get over to the comments now and stop my ranting. So let's see who was first in. Dwight. Hey, Dwight. Usually Caesar beats you. Where is Caesar at? Caesar here? Where is Caesar? Caesar. Good morning, Angela and my fellow VO artists. May your noise floor be low and your spirits high as you go after the gigs today. Thank you, Dwight. You're always uplifting. Paul is here. Hey, Paul. Good day, Angela et al. No recording yet this week. Just as well. It's too hot. My biggest challenge is finding enough projects for a British voice that aren't just offering royalty share. I find it usually just kind of goes in waves, right? It's sort of like whatever's... Is it a trend, though, I guess? I don't know. Because ACX, the platform ACX, has authors, listing books for auditions and then offering book jobs. I mean, this is happening all throughout the day, every day. So it's going to be constantly changing what books are available to audition for. And then depending on the trend at the time, because if you think about it, much like we all gather in weekly chats to gather information to improve ourselves and our businesses, authors do this too. They also have masterminds, they have workshops, they have Discord groups, and then somebody will say, hey, you know what? I think Royalty Share Plus is the best option, and this is why. And then some of the other newer authors go, you know what? I'm going to try that. That sounds like it's perfect for me. That kind of stuff happens too. So I see that on ACX a lot, that it's sort of the trend shifts quite a bit, right? You'll see the majority of books at one point be just per finished hour because they just want to pay for it, be done with it, not have to share any royalties going forward. And then sometimes it'll shift to just royalty share because maybe I don't have a whole lot of upfront capital to pay someone, so I'm just going to go with royalty share for now. But then maybe my second book, I'll have the capital to do, per finished. So it's going to change, I guess my point. The trends are going to change quite a bit. So if you're seeing royalty share a lot right now, it could possibly change pretty quickly. So my point is always be checking in with ACX periodically throughout the day. And if you have the ability to audition for a book as soon as you see it, then do it. Because again, if you look at all these things from the author's perspective, from the other side, they are probably going to have hundreds of auditions on their books. Now, if you're sitting in the author's seat, from their perspective, holy Moses, I don't have time to go through all of these auditions. I'm going to go through the first 50 quickly, if they even get that far, and just see if anybody piques my interest, if anybody catches my attention, or if their audio quality is good enough in the first couple of seconds that, I continue listening. So my point is, audition for it as soon as you see it if you want it, because there's a good chance that if you're in anything submitted after 50, you might not even get listened to. And some authors do. Some authors will go through every single submission. But I can't see in this day and age, with everybody being so busy, that they do that. Crazy. Paul then says, that was a duplicate. Donnie says, I have started to move into my per-finished hour, so my confidence is definitely lacking. Now, hello, Angela and all the beautiful people. Sit down, grab a donut and a coffee, and watch Angela do her magic. I don't know if it's magic, but thank you, Donnie. But yes, grab a coffee, grab your donuts. At my appointment with the surgeon, hopefully I get done in time for the beginning. Holy Moses. Well, good luck to you, Donnie. We'll be thinking about you. Hope everything turns out okay. Lisa says, Happy Canada Day. That's right. Happy Canada Day. To all my fellow Canadians in the group, good morning, Angela. Good morning to you, Lisa. Just found out that ACX promo codes are only good for Audible US and UK. Has anyone been able to acquire promo codes for other countries? I am not able to find anywhere on ACX where I can even ask. That's a good question. I don't think so. I think they're only available for the 2 countries. I don't know. Maybe they'll extend it further at some point. Sean is here. Hey, Sean. I picked no feedback callbacks, but my real challenge isn't hearing back. I get responses about 1 in 4 auditions. It's usually rights holders that ghost me after expressing interest. And sometimes they do. Sometimes they will respond and say, you're in the top 5 or you're in the running or I favorited you. Maybe they'll tell you that just to give you a heads up and maybe ask about your availability at that point. And sometimes they don't. Right? I mean, it could very possibly be that you were in the below 50 that they didn't even listen to because maybe they found the right voice or the closest to it in that first 50 that they listened to, using the example I made earlier. But one thing to remember, not specifically for you, Sean, but for anybody watching, is that if an author has hundreds of auditions to listen through or to, consider for this book, they're not obligated to go through and give everyone feedback. I think that's asking for too much. If you're sending a note along with your audition that says, hey, thank you for considering me. Thank you for your time. I really connected with this book, which I recommend you do, by the way, when you're submitting an audition. Here is the best take that I have for you based on your preferred style, or something that conveys that you paid attention to what they were asking for, and that perhaps maybe something in that book connects with you, resonates with you, that why you feel you're the right choice for this book, or you're excited about this book in some way, shape, or form, right? I recommend you do that. But to be honest, these authors they're not obligated. They're not required to give you feedback. Really, it just comes down to, are you the right voice or are you not, right? So you can't take it personally. You can't take it personally if they ghost you or if they don't give you feedback, or you just can't expect them to do that all the time, There's just probably too many. All they're obligated to do is to go through all the auditions and pick one that works, right? That's really what they're obligated to do. But it's nice when they do keep you posted, but not all of them do. Carol is here. Good morning. Listening in while walking my sweet booth buddy. Aw. Paul says, Lisa, afraid not. ACX only issues promo codes for US and UK. Ken is here. Hey, Ken. Morning, Angela et al. Good morning to you, Ken. David is here from Hamilton, Ontario. Lisa says to Paul, thanks for the confirmation. Hopefully one day they will add us here in the Great White North. We really have nothing much to do in the cold winter months but read. Pamela is here. Good morning. Jules, hey Jules, morning all. I've brought donuts for everyone because today is fantastic. Yes, it is. Now my stomach is growling. Thanks, Jules. Dwight says, I did my first audition in a couple of months yesterday. I've been super busy with the class stuff and personal life. Back at it now. Good for you. Good for you. Hi, Angela and everyone. I brought blueberry Oh, that sounds good. I like my fritters. They're so bad for you, but they're so good. Tanya's here. Good morning, Tanya. Or good evening for you. Good evening, all. I do the best I can with the information the rights holder has given and the contextual info. And, you know, sometimes when it comes to audiobook auditions, sometimes they will upload an entire chapter. Sometimes they will upload just specific scenes. Sometimes they will upload the entire manuscript. And that is another question I get a lot about is how much of this do I actually provide in an audition? If the author uploads an entire chapter, for example, that doesn't necessarily mean that the audition has to be the entire chapter. It just means that perhaps that was the only section they could figure out how to upload. Or maybe they're just giving you like dealer's choice. Pick a scene and narrate it, right? Same thing with the manuscript. If they upload the entire manuscript, maybe that's all they could figure. Here's the manuscript, pick something. You know, it's not, you're supposed to read the entire thing. Now, if the author gives you specific scenes, that is usually for a reason. That usually means they want to see how you handle specific emotions or context, right? They're giving you an idea of what is in this book. Sometimes, like if it's like a romance book, perhaps, and they want you to see what you're going to be narrating. Like, how bad can this get? Bad, meaning like how spicy, perhaps. But it's usually they want to see how you handle different emotions and how you paint specific scenes. Now, if they give you 20 different scenes, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to provide or narrate all 20 of those scenes in the audition. I would pick perhaps the couple that would be the most impactful for your audition. And the one that is the one you feel that you nailed, put that one first, I would say. Because you obviously want to grab their attention and keep it, right, and get the job. But, yeah, sometimes you don't have a whole lot of info. Maybe they just give you that one scene, like Tanya said, and there isn't a whole lot of, well, there isn't at all anything preceding or coming after, so you really just have a small little snippet, and you have to sort of, okay, well, what could possibly be going on in this scene based on what I have, and just do your best with that, right? Because that's all they give you. And then you can also include in the message with your audition at that point, based on what I was given, this is what I came up with. Obviously, I could, once I have the entire manuscript, then it would probably sound a little bit, it'll flow a little bit better or sound a little bit closer to what you were probably looking for. But if I've only got 5 sentences, this is all I've got to go off of, right? So just do your best with what you have, what you are given. Rochelle is here. Good morning, Angela and everyone. Definitely feel my voice doesn't fit what they're looking for. So I have to ask, Rochelle, is it because you feel that Because you said you don't feel your voice. Does that mean that you're being your own worst critic? Or that you can't emote or you can't give them what they're asking for due to maybe an accent or, I mean, specifically when you feel that your voice doesn't fit what they need? I would say if it comes down to a specific accent or something, then, much like myself, I know my weaknesses. I know that I'm not great at accents. So I'm not going to apply for a job where they're looking for an Irish accent, right? So if that's the case, understandable. But if it's something that you're saying, oh, well, I hate my own voice, then I don't think I'm going to, just throw that out the window right now. You can get with masterminds, workshops, coaches, and get better, right? If you want to learn the craft and hone it, then that is something that you can do in the future. But don't hate on your own voice. Don't. Because what makes your voice different from everyone else's could be the thing that gets you hired, right? Your opinion of your voice, as I always say, does not matter. So stop hating on your own voice. It depends on what the client thinks of it. Does it fit? Yeah. Do you hate it? Maybe. But the client loves it, right? So your opinion ultimately does not matter. So don't. Tangent. Smash all the things. Yes, do all the YouTube-y things. Do all the YouTube-y things. If you're watching this in Team Replay, please click the like, subscribe, share, notify, all of the buttons. All of the buttons. All of them. Do them all. Eric is here. Hey, Eric. Hello, hello. I think it's healthy to have a little bit of concern regarding if you're nailing it, no matter your skill level. Does that make sense? Yeah, because I think more so in the beginning, because we're still learning about how we are getting things out. So we have to make sure that, like, we're not sure if we're actually getting the emotion out that we think that we are. And then also I find that a lot of the times in the beginning that when we read a book, we read fast. So we think that as we narrate, it's going to be as fast as we read, and that is not the case. Newer narrators tend to read very, very quickly, and we have to remember that as a narrator, we don't have body language. We don't have the facial expressions that the listener doesn't have all of those visual cues. They're not following along with us as we narrate. So we have to slow down at least 25% sometimes, to slow down, to paint that picture, and to give meaningful pauses. And, again, making sure that we're understanding what we're reading, why we're reading it. And sorry, my phone is so loud. But understanding those things will help you to nail it, right? And again, get training, get with groups, get in masterminds, right? Start working on these things and understanding these things and practicing these things with your peers. So, like my platinum group, can do nothing but help, right? Eric says, don't know which one of the poll answers that falls into. Maybe the first one. Not sure my read fits the brief because you don't really feel like you're nailing it, perhaps. Tanya says, I also try not to rush into it and try several different takes. That way it's the best I can do. And if I don't get it, it just wasn't the right fit. Exactly. Exactly. And sometimes if you're given just that little snippet to audition with and no real context as to what's happening in this book or what happened just before or just after, you just have to do your best with what you have, right? And make sure that you can maybe picture what is happening in this scene and what is happening from the viewpoint of every person in it, if it's fiction, and just do your best with that, to emote that, to get that to come across, to paint that picture. Again, if it's fiction, depending on how it's written, you can usually tell if it's kind of If the author's having some fun with it, or if they're just being sort of straightforward and deadpan with it. I mean, you can kind of tell based on how it is written. So, and if that's the case, if they're being a little bit, they're having some fun with it, they're being funny, then let that come through, right? Let that come through. Janelle says, hi, Angela. Hi, everyone. Sometimes my nerves get to me until the second or third take. Then I just have fun with it. And sometimes you got to do that. You just got to read it out loud a couple times, maybe in a couple different ways. And then maybe something in it will click at that point. You just go, oh, I get it now. And then give it your best take. I find that most of the time, once we take the time to read through it and understand where the characters are coming from, or we understand the W's, sometimes the first take, like our first instinct, is usually the right one. But sometimes, and a lot of you will know what I'm talking about, sometimes it's going to take a few different reads, getting through it, and then you go, oh, okay, now I understand what they're saying, because maybe it's not as straightforward as they hoped it would be. And it helps to relax, right? Not be so rigid while you're recording, because you can hear that too when you're recording. Relax. Have fun with it. Sage is here. Hi, Sage. Good afternoon, everyone. As a newbie, I haven't graduated to this level yet, but always looking to learn and improve. You can be a newbie in submitting auditions. Don't tell yourself that you can't do it because you haven't graduated some point yet. And not just for you, Sage. Don't hold yourself back because you haven't done X, Y, or Z, indicating graduation. That's procrastinating. Right? Alicia says, hi, everyone. Hi, Alicia. Tanya says, I also auditioned for a project looking for a male voice and messaged the rights holder to say I was interested. Would he consider me? And he hired me. Good for you. If you don't ask, you don't get. And don't be afraid to ask those questions. I find a lot of new narrators and voice actors, for that reason, or for that matter, are afraid of asking clarifying questions. If something isn't clear, it's okay to ask. It's okay to counter, right? If you're in the middle of a negotiation or they offered you something, it's okay to counter, right? Like, for example, for an audiobook, if they hit you with royalty share and we love your voice, let's go. And maybe you're more interested in royalty share plus because maybe the book is a little bit on the longer side and it would make sense for you to do royalty share plus. Ask them. Explain to them what it is and why you're asking for it. Because perhaps maybe it's a little bit longer than you would be comfortable with for royalty share. Maybe it's like an 80,000 word book or something. I mean, it's okay to counter. It's okay to ask clarifying questions. It shows that you're invested, you're professional, you're interested, and you want to make sure that this is right for both of you. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. It doesn't make you look bad. It makes you look better, if anything. It makes you look vested and professional. It's better to ask questions than not. Do it. Kantia says, hello. After a few weeks hiatus, chocolate croissants and donuts for everyone. I love it. Rebecca, I'm loving those TikToks. She says to Tanya, that's hardly fair. Your voice is freaking magical. It is. It is. I think Tanya could probably approach any author and say, hey, I know you're looking for, I don't know, a woodpecker. Hear me out. And then she'd get the job. It's a stupid example, but Tanya does have a amazing voice. Glowin says, good afternoon, all. I brought donuts because I'm late. Thank you, Glowin. Hang on, I got to turn the air conditioner back on. It's getting hot in here. Uh, okay. Glowen says, also, not at home just yet. My poll answer is that I lack the confidence, and I think it might, or probably does, come through in my reading. And if you think it might, then it probably does. So, and that's a hard one to overcome. The lack of confidence. That's a hard one to overcome on your own, for sure. But there are little things that you can do to help you to build your confidence. And that is to just sort of, when you're submitting the audition, just putting the blinders on when you click submit, right? Or sort of detaching from it. I think to do the actual recording itself, you could do the, counting down from 5 to 1 and then the act, meaning just hit record and then practice the audition a couple of times while it's recording and then give it your final take, and then stop the recording. And then when you go back into the playback, just delete everything that doesn't sound right and then just send that final take if you feel that that was the right one. But we are our own worst critics. And then, again, another great reason to join groups, because if there is something that is needing attention to be fixed, to be improved, to be adjusted, then your group will tell you. Then you can address it and move forward. Or maybe you're just telling yourself that your audio quality is garbage, and then you get peer feedback from your group, and they're like, "What are you talking about? This is fantastic." We are our own worst critics, and usually we plant our own seeds of, self-limiting beliefs. We do it a lot. But usually if you're not feeling confident, it more than likely is going to come through. Aw, shucks. Yes, magical, Tanya. Caesar's, oh no, Caesar's sick. He pushes himself too hard. Joy is here. Hey, Joy. Hello, everyone, from nice, sunny Southfield, Michigan. My issue has been with my DAW. I switched from Audacity to Reaper, and I'm still dealing with the learning curve. And you've been in this for a while now. I can understand where switching after working with Audacity for so long might be a little bit of a learning curve. I switched early. Maybe a few months, right? I used Audacity for about 2 or 3 months, and then I switched to Audition. So everything was still relatively fresh and new. Wasn't trying to relearn a bunch of things. So I could see how that could be, a little bit time consuming. Dwight says Caesar won't be joining us today as he is feverish and not feeling well. Caesar, if you're watching this, I wish you a speedy recovery. I'm hoping Caesar is in bed. I hope he's asleep. Yes. Sending Caesar healing vibrations. Caesar, if you're listening, we're sending all the good juju your way. Rest, hydrate. Happy early evening from the UK. What other sites do you actively get audiobook work on outside of ACX? I get audiobook work on Fiverr, Upwork. I also have authors reach out to me directly from my YouTube channel, from social media. They find my website and reach out to me directly. There are a few other rosters that you can get onto, but I have not had as much success on those than I have with just, authors finding me directly or finding me on the freelance marketplaces. I think social media is probably one of the best avenues for marketing yourself right now, to be honest. But, getting into Facebook groups and giving insight and, engaging in different groups will definitely at some point spread throughout the algorithms and the interwebs. And then you start to make those connections with not only authors and publishers, but with other audiobook narrators, which will help push you further out into the algorithms. But long story short, you have to get out there. You have to be seen, heard, in this case, for us. So that means putting yourself out there. You got to do it. Paul is here. Good morning. Brought the donuts. Thank you, Paul. Lisa says, have not been auditioning lately. No studio at the moment, but I have been sending samples of my previous work. I do add in the comment section the reason I'm not recording their audition piece. Because you have no studio. That makes sense. I understand what you're doing, but I don't know if, from an author's standpoint, I don't know if that would be something that you should be doing. Because from an author's standpoint, if I wanted to start tomorrow, if I wanted to make a selection today, knowing that you can't might hold you back. However, if they are an author who is just kind of dipping their toes in to see what this is all about, then, and the keeping you on file for later, that could be a good thing too. But just, I guess, know that it could go either way, depending on the author's timeline or their time frame. But it's better than, either option is better than not auditioning at all, I suppose. So I'd say that's a good thing. I hope that made sense. Some rights holders are replying that I'm sending them the wrong audition. Some are giving me feedback that they appreciate that I'm sending them something. Well, there you go. So if that's the case, then I guess keep doing it. Katya says, I've finally settled into my new dream apartment. Congratulations. Any thoughts for a room treatment on a fly? One that doesn't require building something. My ceilings are quite high. Currently trying out my closet. If your ceilings are very high and the closet doesn't work out, then you might have to build an armature. With PVC pipe and moving blankets. Or at the very least, it's really going to depend on the room. It's really going to depend on the room, how large the room is, how high the ceilings are. But your best bet is just to do some test recordings. We do the clap recording in a spot and then listen to the playback and see how much echo, what it sounds like. I'll typically record, when I was testing my room, I would record Mary Had a Little Lamb, just do like a nursery rhyme and then a clap, and then listen back for echo, sibilance, right? That will tell you where to move your mic, which walls to treat. But if you have a room that's really super large and high ceilings, it might be hard to control the echo in that environment. So you may have to build something to sort of contain your voice within a space, the vibrations, if that makes sense. But what I would do in your situation is probably hop on to YouTube University, and start looking for some solutions, some creative solutions to what you got going on, and just get ideas, make some notes. You might have to come up with something if the closet doesn't work. Ken says, connecting with the book is a good thing. The last two I just finished were both on subjects I really enjoy, pizza and wine. You scored. I don't know anybody who couldn't connect with pizza and or wine. Lucky. Lisa says, I think sometimes rights holders don't read messages we send, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes they do. Sometimes they listen to our auditions, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they read our bios, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll even go as far as going to your website, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll go on to Audible and see what other books you've done, and sometimes they don't. There's a lot of, what ifs, but that shouldn't stop you from doing it, because to those that are considering you and reading through your messages, it could be just the thing that, the reason they hire you. So it's better to have it on there than to not. It's better to include a personal message than to not. Tanya says, if a rights holder queries my rate, I respond politely that it's not set in stone, assume they won't go any further, and get on with my day. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, although what I typically do when someone asks for my rate, I just give them my rate. I don't move on my rate unless they come back and say, well, our budget was XYZ, or this is my first time. I have no idea what I'm doing. I can't afford that, but, are you flexible? Then that is the point where I'll say, well, okay, well, what are we thinking? And try to come up with something that works for both of us, right? That is when I say I'm flexible. But if they ask for my rate, I give them my rate. It's not unless they come back with something is when I'll try to work something out with them. Adam says, I sometimes have trouble determining the level of emotion the rights holder is seeking in the audition. And that's really going to depend on what is going on, right? And one thing that we talk about in my Platinum group a lot when we work on emotions or having emotions come through in the right way, one thing we always say is to give it 20% more or 50% more or 100% more in some situations. Because I think a lot of you guys have watched me for a little bit of time now. And so if I told you I was happy, and you can see my face, if I told you I was happy, you could tell that I was happy, right? But for someone listening to my voice for the first time and not seeing my face, that didn't sound very happy. I mean, maybe a slight smile, but, I didn't sound upset, but I didn't really sound happy either. But if I wanted to come across as no doubt happy, I would really have to overdo it a little bit. I'm really, really happy, right? So sometimes you have to give it 50%, 100%, depending on your personality. And that is the acting part in voice actings, is knowing what is happening in this situation, what is happening in this scene. Or if I'm really sad, I mean, I don't sound happy right now, but I don't necessarily sound sad. I would really have to overdo it to sound sad, right? So sometimes you got to really turn it up, that emotion, to make sure that it comes across that way. And then at that point, you're just doing the best that you can. Depending on the context, of course, or as much of it as you're given. Jamie says, hi all, I just have a standard one that says, thank you for the chance to audition, and I look forward to hearing from you. And sometimes that's enough, just engaging. But I would definitely add something about the book that resonated with you. And it doesn't have to be a long paragraph. You could just say, I can totally relate to this, or this is really interesting to me, or, whatever it is that piqued your interest in auditioning for this book in the first place. Include that in your message. And again, it doesn't have to be long. But at the very least, like you're saying, thank them for their time. Thank them for the opportunity. Thank them for their consideration, however you want to word it. But be grateful and say, hey, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope to hear from you. I look forward. You can even use the assumption. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to working with you. Mark Samuels is here. Good morning to you, Mark. Eric says, Jamie Rod, you're welcome. Rochelle says, my voice is a bit low and sultry sounding. Was great for on-air radio and commercial ads. I'm good with my voice, but I don't think how-to books was sultry. No, but there's a lot. There's a huge umbrella genre that you would fit into just perfectly if that's how you describe your voice. Low and sultry? Girl, you need to get into the spicy book world. Romanticy, right? Just romance. You've got a lot open to you with a voice like that. Carol says, I had to learn to love my own voice. It takes some getting used to. Relatable. 8 years later, I still can't listen to stuff that I have done. If someone is scrolling through YouTube, I'm hanging out with my mom or something, and something I did comes up on her feed, I'm like, ugh, turn that off. I can't listen to it. Still, 8 years later, I can't. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my introvert. I don't know. Relatable. I mean, I can deal with it right now because I have to submit the job. That is like my purpose. But if I don't have to listen to it, I'm not going to. Rebecca says to Rochelle, I promise you never know. Your sultry could be someone else's grounded. It's super subjective. That too. It falls under your opinion of your voice doesn't matter. It is very subjective. That's a good point. Tanya says to Rochelle, there is definitely a market for low and sultry outside of the how-tos, though. Kat says, I know I'm going to have to slow down when I narrate. I read aloud too fast. Also, I've heard most people don't like their own voice because we normally hear it through our head, so it's weird. You're used to hearing it inside your head. You're not used to hearing your voice outside your head. So it's a wholly different thing. It sounds different. It's just so foreign. Unless, and this is typically for, generations, maybe older millennials and older, right? But for the newer generations, they grew up on social media and making content, from birth. So as soon as they could talk, they're making content. So they might be a little bit more accustomed to hearing their voices outside their head, but for us older folk, not so much. So it takes a little bit more getting used to. Exactly. It's a whole different ballgame. Natalie says, good morning. Been busy, but glad I could pop in for a bit today. I'm glad you're here. Ben, where have you been, Ben? I haven't seen you in so long. I hope you're all right. Hope you're doing well. Yeah. Tony the Woodpecker. James says, we're our own worst critic. That comes through for me as I get told that I have a podcaster type of good quality mic voice, but when I listen to my audiobook recordings, I hate it. And that's so funny because it's the same voice. It's the same voice. It's the same voice. It's the same setup. But when you're applying it in a new way, your brain is telling you this is not a podcast. This is an audiobook, even though it's all the same equipment, right? Same mic, same voice, same environment, same. You're like, this doesn't belong here. This belongs over here. So it's just your brain. But you do get used to it. You do. Glowen says, okay, home now. Had a happy birthday to Canada Day lunch with a buddy. Good. I'm hungry. Tani says, remember, they can't see you. They don't know you. And as far as they're concerned, you're a seasoned professional. Exactly. Fake it till you make it. And join a group for feedback. Platinum rules. My hair fell. It's not as poofy. All right. Stop messing with your hair, Angela. Dwight says, Caesar and I met for a little bit this morning, and I sent him back to bed. He has a flu variant. Oh, no. I know he was beating himself up a bit, and he does not want to let people down that he is working with. Yes, I understand that feeling, Caesar, but you have to take care of yourself first. People will understand that you don't feel well. Most people have not been well themselves at some point or another and will understand that your body needs to recuperate. So don't be too hard on yourself, Caesar. Listen to your body. Dwight says, don't forget to tickle the like, follow, and share buttons for Miss Angela. Yes. Don't just flirt with them. Smash them. Hit them, click them, whatever you want to call it. Yes, please. Paul says to Rugi, try Authors Republic. As a fellow Brit, I've had better success rates with them than ACX. Yeah, and keep in mind that ACX is just one platform. I'm telling you, if you just do a Google search of audiobook publishing entities, production companies, something of that nature, you'll find tons of them that you can reach out to, see if they have an in-house roster or if they hire freelance talent. I'm telling you, do a little bit of work and you will find the answer to most questions, right? And in terms of finding work, it's not a secret. It's out there. You just got to go look for it. Dwight says, Angela, how did your interview go yesterday, and how are? Oh, the podcast. The podcast, actually, I was asked to guest on a podcast last week. However, they were having technical difficulties. They had internet issues. Something about the networks or something. But this is the second time we've had to reschedule, so we'll probably have to reschedule again. But they approached me. It was like a voiceover. It was another voiceover channel. But I have guested on, I think, four different podcasts now, and all of them have reached out to me. I think they found me on my YouTube channel or through my YouTube channel. Jewel says, Lisa, have you tried recording in your car until you have a studio again? Great point. There's a lot of voice actors that have and do record from their car. Lisa says, no, my mic and gear are in a storage container waiting for my new house. Makes sense. To be finished. Should be up and going again by the end of July. Well, that's not that far. Not that far. Trina says, I've used a pop-up cabana for my studio. That's cool. I know an author who is narrating his own audiobooks who has converted a sauna into a recording booth. It's not working, obviously. It's not on while he's recording, but it made for a great recording studio that he already had on hand. So, I mean, you just got to get creative, and use what you got. Lisa says to Jules, I know, I'm going through withdrawals, not being able to talk to myself in a dark closet. Kat says, for Adobe Audition, do you have to pay a subscription fee for each computer you put it on? No. And I think you can put it on 2 or 3 devices. Double check me on that. But I think you are limited in the number of devices you can use it on. But it's not for each, unless you need more than 2 or 3 devices, which most of us don't. I'd like to start learning Adobe Audition and practicing punch and roll, but not if I have to pay for it twice. No. I'm able to use it on my laptop and my desktop at the same time. Alicia says to Katya, I recently purchased Cube's unit and acoustic foam to make my own voice box. Still fixing it together. You hear my stomach growling. That's my way of setting up my recording space. Let's see if we can find... Oh, here's an answer to your question. Kat Paul says you can activate Adobe Audition on 2 devices. You can install on more than 2 systems, but only activate on 2 at any one time. Yes. Join my platinum group. Yes. Ken says, who is a new member, said, Rochelle, do it. I joined last week after debating with myself for a couple of months. Kat is also relatively new. She said, I joined the platinum group moments before Thursday meeting. I'm loving it. Join soon. Glad you guys are enjoying it. And you guys got to see Wheel of Emotions. That was last week, and that's always fun. Voiceover by Forever Young is listening from South Dakota. This topic totally relates to me. Good. Seeing a lot of new names. I'm glad you guys are finding me. And if you've been lurking and don't like to comment, that's fine. But if you have questions, don't be afraid to ask. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I want to impress that upon you now. I do this every week to help you guys get unstuck and to move forward and to answer questions that you have. These live chats are based on like questions that I get just preceding, the live chat every week. So if you have a question about something, nothing is dumb. Nothing is like people are going to think I'm a dumb newbie, whatever. Stop it. Just ask the question. We all had the same questions in the beginning. So there are no dumb questions. I don't expect all of you to just magically know the answers to everything. But that's why I'm here. I'm trying to help you guys. I'm your cheerleader. I'm your butt kicker, whatever you need me to be. But I'm going to do it because that's what I want to do. I'm like drawn to do that. I want to help. So tell me what you need. Ask the questions. Don't be afraid. Yes, Alexis, we'd love to have you. Because my platinum group is not just about what I think. Yes, I share a lot of information. Yes, we do tutorials. Yes, we review websites. We do all of these things that are important as a business owner and a brand new voice actor audiobook narrator. But we also value and incorporate everybody else's opinions too. Everybody has different backgrounds and different experience levels. And some people even have additional skills and talents that they bring to the group, like web development and demo production and organization skills, acting, like we have stage actors. I mean, we have so many different people with different backgrounds and experience and skill levels that everybody pitches in. And then it's an amazing dynamic. So do it. Do it. We have a great group. Katya says, I missed the suggestions about Cube's unit. Thank you so much. Jules, come on. Get in there. Get into the Discord. Get into the Discord, Jules. Jules, all right, Platinum. Jules just joined. She needs to get into the Discord. She's awesome. She'll fit right in. Glowen says, wow, I just looked at Voice 123. Even the top paid membership, you only get matched to 80% of matching projects for $2,200 a year. That's ridiculous. I know. Glowen says, the free option only matches you to 1%. So they just toss random books into your query. The free option on most of these pay-to-plays, this is why they're called pay-to-play. The majority of these pay-to-play websites, like voices.com, Voice123, Bidalgo, so on and so forth, you could have a profile on these sites for free. But more often than not, you cannot audition. You cannot do anything other than just to be seen. And the likelihood of that is going to be low because you just joined. You've probably got you've got nothing booked, right? You've got no reviews. You've got no feedback. You've got nothing. There's going to be... So in order to get auditions and have the ability to audition, you have to be a paying member. And there's usually different tiers of membership. Obviously, the higher the tier, the more you're paying, the sooner you're going to see an audition when it becomes available. And by the time it travels down the tiers of membership. So, I mean, joining these pay-to-plays is a great opportunity, but if you're not one of the top paying members or don't have a ton of experience, the likelihood of getting jobs on there is sort of a crapshoot. It's roulette, really, because I've seen it go either way. I've seen people that have, experienced people that have gotten nothing on any of these pay-to-plays. But I've also seen brand new people go in there, join day one, submit an audition and win a job. So, but I want you guys to have the information so you can make an educated decision and, decide whether you want to take that shot or not. Right? But Kat says, I've been looking at past Thursday meetings and I'm learning from them as well. Yes, we record all of our Platinum group meetings. They're all recorded and they're all posted on my website. So I think we're up to, we just passed 200 not too long ago. So there are quite a few meetings to go through. Greg, I'm going to say it again. Greg Cooper says, I've done about 10 books so far. Mostly royalty share. How often do you find they pay off? Mine haven't had much return yet. Yeah, With royalty share, you really got to do the research on the books first. You have to have a good idea if the book, if it's like an evergreen topic, if it's going to sell well, how are the ratings on it? Is this a new author? Are they doing any marketing? There's a lot more sort of, behind the scenes Scooby-Doo work to do on a royalty share book versus any other, for sure. But there really isn't a set way to determine if this book is going to make you money or not. Obviously, the more marketing you do, the more chances you have. You and the author should both be marketing the book if you're doing royalty share, because that only benefits them, but it benefits you, obvi. So, but I mean, on the same token, it's the opportunity to go through the entire process from A to Z in audiobook production and sort of, throwing yourself into the fire and figuring it out as you go. And then just think of the confidence you're going to feel, right? Not just for you, Greg, but for anybody considering starting with a royalty share book. Even if it doesn't, even if it doesn't sell well, you're still going through the entire process. And then the confidence you feel after that first one is done is the fuel to the fire to push you forward. Losing my voice already. To push you forward to getting more auditions in, to keep going, right? It fuels your why, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Jewel says, I'm trying. I've been busy making deals and updating my Fiverr and waiting on garbage trucks to finish driving through my neighborhood. Jules, it takes 2 minutes, maybe less than that, a minute. Just do it. I know you're doing all the homework I gave you, which is good, but trust me, you're going to get a lot from our Discord group. Dwight says, Jules, get in there and go directly to startup. Then watch Do You Discord. It will help you with everything right off the bat if you're not familiar with Discord already. Angela's Platinum Discord is a uniquely powerful tool. Yes, it is. Ken, they're on you now, Jules. Ken says, Jules, garbage trucks, construction, renovation noises from nearby, the noisy crows and magpies, and the yahoos and loud mufflers. The joys of home recording. Had to bail out Thursday after the first hour. It's my regular Aquafit night, but the recordings are great. I'm glad you guys are there and enjoying it. Rebecca says to Jules, enter additional peer pressure here. But seriously, the group really helps. Yes, it does. Was there anything else that I didn't cover? I think I touched on everything that I wanted to touch on. I do have notes. Pacing, technical specs, polite note. I think that was just about everything. So, but the biggest part of auditioning is submitting the audition, right? I think a lot of people will get stuck at that point where you just go like the hopes and dreams, and you're just like, if I click this button, it could go well or it could suck. Or it could not go well, right? It's either one or the other. Which way can this go? Am I going to be absolutely crushed if my voice wasn't the one they were looking for? Probably not. There's thousands of other books out there that I can audition for. One author telling me that I was not the voice for them is not the end of the world. There's thousands more out there. And a percentage of them could be looking for a voice like yours. But how do you find them? You find them by auditioning. It's like putting your hand out and shaking a hand. Hey, nice to meet you. I'm a voice actor. Can we be friends? Right? You're not going to get a book offer unless you're doing that. But then also, if you're submitting auditions, for those of you on ACX, if you're submitting auditions, don't forget to also post those auditions as samples. Because remember, 60% of jobs booked on ACX are from auditions, and the other 40% are through the samples. So make sure that you're doing both. Okay? Jules says, okay, I'm going. Good. keep an eyeball on you, Missy. Bill says, after recording and processing, do I have to do anything else after that, or do I just submit finished work to ACX? After recording, processing, mastering, making sure that the file is meeting ACX's standards, then you just submit the audition and then leave a note. Thank you for Thank you for your consideration. I really resonated with this book. Some sort of a personal note, but be sure that you're grateful, thank them for their time. I look forward to working with you, something like that. And then take that audition and submit it as a sample as well. Dwight says to Jules, yeah. Ken says only 12 likes. What? Come on, people. Help me out. Click. It's free. Just do that. Thank you. Carol says, I found those who write a memoir for royalty share don't seem to be motivated to market. It's a passion project, if that makes sense. That's been my experience. Yeah, and you're going to have, just like us, you're going to have all kinds of different mindsets, purposes, whys, directions, preferences. It's a wide, wide world out there. So, not everybody's going to think the same way that you do, right? So go out there and experience it. Tanya says, remember that you're talking to a friend, not projecting to the back row in a theater. Dwight says 38 clicks on refresh. Thank you, Dwight. And since we're talking about audiobooks, I don't think I've mentioned it on live yet, but I am now the adjunct professor on a VO's Journey Academy. I'll be taking on the audiobook section one time a month, and then we'll also be popping in there for some script workouts once in a while. So I think I even linked it down below in the description. If you want to check out a VO's Journey Academy or for the Join the Academy Voices, if you guys are familiar with Anthony Pica. He was actually my coach years ago, and I coached for him a few years back, and now I'm back. So now I'm going to be a VO's Journey coach again, and possibly more in the future, so we'll see. But if you guys want to check it out, it's a full academy with, a ton of different coaches and a ton of different topics, and help get me to where I am today. So please consider checking that out. Or if you want to work with me directly, you can find those links or that information on my personal website, voiceoverangela.com. But until then, if you have anything that you guys want to talk about in these upcoming live chats, then please put those in the comments below this video and do all the YouTube-y things, click all the buttons, so on and so forth. But I'll see you guys next week. My Platinum group, I will see you guys on Thursday. We'll be reviewing Group Delta's auditions, so we'll be doing that. But other than that, I'll see you guys next week. See you later. Thank you for listening to She Lancer Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. That's me. For more information about me, visit my website, voiceoverangela.com, or hop on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. Again, thanks for listening. Have a great day.